Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that comes up. I usually get people, who will say, wow, your back is your best body part. We know you're not a bodybuilder, you're a strength athlete. How have you gotten your back, that big? It's pretty dang big. It's not the biggest in the world, but I have a lot of back development, and I think that people are surprised then when I say that, look, rows and deadlifts have always been the foundation of my back training. And when I make that statement, I'm not saying other things aren't useful. I do a lot of extra low back work like reverse hypers and things. I've had phases where I've focused on pull-ups a lot in the past, but I don't find them necessary. I've never had a problem really building a thick back off rows and deadlifts. But again, when I say that, I want to be clear that I am not dismissing other exercises, right? I'm not saying lat pull downs aren't useful or pull-ups, other movements, other things. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply stating that I have always had very, very good luck personally, and so have many of my clients by just really focusing on rows and deadlifts. And I think that they can cover the foundation of your back training. But like with anything else, if they're not getting the job done and you need to incorporate other movements, you do what you have to do. But we also come down to the case of saying, or you ended up just doing a bunch of junk volume that may not be helping you at a certain point. And I don't think that you can go wrong by getting really strong on rows and deadlifts. I just don't. And I've used a lot of types of rows. I know people see me here in this clip just doing the one-arm dumbbell rows, but I do barbell rows and phases, seal rows. I've even had times where I focus a lot on inverted rows, even weighted inverted rows. I've had periods of time where I did a lot of pull-ups, but I built my pull-up strength originally just doing rows. People are like, when I was doing pull-ups, and of course I get overuse issues very fast on those, and I don't do them anymore. I just find that they're prone to injuring me personally, just due to my shoulder structure and the stretch it places. But I always built my pull-up strength with rows, meaning I had gone sometimes years without doing pull-ups, and then jump in and start doing pull-ups, and before long I'm able to do 15 or 20. Okay? Even, weighing over 200 pounds out of nowhere. It's like, well, because I've always done lots of rows, and the rows do carry over. And I've found that even if I cut pull-ups out, as long as I keep focusing on my rows and my deadlifts, my back will sometimes continue to make gains without any sort of vertical pulling. Okay? And I want to be clear there, because I will see a lot of people in evidence-based circles who are like, well, you have to have a vertical pull and you should really be doing it this way or that way. And I'm like, but is that really necessary? If you do one or two types of rows, I think that can cover everything that you need for lats. Okay? I really do. And I'm not saying doing some other stuff is a bad thing. I'm not saying some extra shoulder work might not help with things like your traps and posterior delts. And in some cases, we do need a little bit more of that. Right? Again, making that point clear. But when we start looking at just overall development, I think that the majority of your back development can come from just rows. And I think for many people, you can build an extremely big back, way bigger than you see on average in the gyms, even by gym bros, gym rats, purely by getting really good at rows, getting very strong at rows for workloads, meaning I'm not talking about a 1 rep max on a row. I'm certainly not saying that. I'm not suggesting to you that you need to max out on a row when I say get good at them or get strong at them. I'm talking about for 8 reps, for 10 reps, right? And for overall back development, I like things where you lean over more. I like rows off the floor if you're going to do them with a barbell, so more of a traditional barbell row than a bent over row. Right? I like dumbbell rows. Done one arm. I also, program sometimes 2 arms, on an incline bench. But I like leaning over a little bit more. We get extra lat development the further over that we can lean and less upright. The more upright we are, the more it shifts more towards the upper back. And then, when it comes to a lot of that, I think deadlifts can cover a lot of that. Even though there's EMG data on deadlifts due to that contracted position and the strain on it for lats. In fact, on some EMG studies, it's deadlifts have beaten the other exercises for lats, but that's because it puts it in a contracted position and you're holding a lot of weight isometrically there with it. I don't think that it really transfers into amazing growth stimulus. And I want to be clear when I state that. I think it can contribute to it if you're doing another exercise on top of it. But as far as other back development, things like your traps, okay, I think deadlifts are great for traps because, it puts it into a loaded stretch position that we then use dynamically. In other words, because there is some rotation of the shoulder happening, it is working the traps into a loaded stretch at different angles through that pull, okay? So the traps are having to be held isometrically through a couple different positions, while being stretched. I think it does contribute. Low back development, I think it does contribute. So, and it's really that combination of the two. It's that combination of the two because lats really have the ability to take the traps, or rows have the ability to take the traps and the lats into some really good lengthened positions with a lot of loading, which is where most of your growth occurs. But then, you'll see the same people, they'll talk about, squeezing the lats and stuff at the top, like as if it does anything with a lightweight. A deadlift does that more effectively. So if you are going to glean just a little tiny bit of extra growth from a shortened position, that isometric squeeze people want to do, that deadlift is going to do that with a lot more tension. It's going to be better at it. And I don't think that contributes that significantly. But again, if you're talking about just a little bit of icing on the cake, I think the deadlifts do contribute. I think not so much to the lats. I think it's the contribution to the lats is very, very small, very minimal. But I think the traps, the erectors, all of that, yeah, they absolutely can contribute significantly there. But then you combine it all together. I think especially for the traps, you combine the rows and the deadlifts. I think you can build really big traps off that. I'm not saying some other movements are a bad thing. I'm not saying some upright rows or lateral raises won't help further with that because they will. I think they will. I don't think we can deny that. I think that's reasonable to say, they can contribute some, And I like both of those movements. I think both of those can bring a lot to the table. Both upright rows and lateral raises, rear delt flies. I think those are great exercises. Just for thickening up, the whole shoulder girdle, which can include those areas. But when it comes down to it, I think rowing and deadlifting really are the foundation of that. You can build a really, really big back off of those if you get good at them. And the other stuff, all these other movements that we're talking about, I think those are just kind of like a little bit of icing on the cake. I don't think that they build the entire foundation quite the same the way that those movements do. I think that they can be a nice little finishing touch, right? All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.